Hey, what's happening? I hope you guys are doing well. It is late at night, and I know that I don't typically go live this time of night, but I'm still on that Chinese jet lag, and sometimes things pop off, and I just feel compelled to kind of talk about it right as it's happening, to kind of give you guys perspective on it. I saw this ad today that was basically being featured by the Republican Party, that was used to basically kind of go after this whole immigration situation. Apparently, there's a dispute happening at the border, and the Republicans aren't happy about it, and it's getting kind of interesting. And they're throwing around words like racist, a lot. And I thought they'd be interesting to talk about for Black people. Let me just jump right into it. So uh, basically, what happened today is President Trump, being his usual strange, crazy self, goes off and he retweets an ad that was being run by the Republicans about illegal immigration. Basically, the ad is designed to scare people, make them afraid of this immigrant caravan that's coming across the border, and apparently it's going to lead to some sort of clash. I don't know if what the master plan is. I don't think this was all coincidental. I think somebody organized every bit of this, and they're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. Like, okay, well, what's going to happen once all these immigrants get to the border? And what I think both parties are doing is they are using this immigrant caravan to mobilize their base, to get everybody pumped up, for the elections. It's not a coincidence that this caravan is happening right around election time. That's not just something that just randomly happens. Somebody planned it that way, and this is how deep everything goes. I mean, they've been doing this stuff. White folks been doing this stuff with each other for hundreds of years, and that's what you're seeing kind of played out right now. So what was fascinating was Donald Trump tweeted this ad, and in this ad, he basically, or the person that made the ad was basically saying, look, if you let these immigrants in, like the Democrats want, you're going to have all these criminals that come in. You're going to have all these, these gangbangers, these people that want to kill cops, stuff like that come in. So it's sort of, prototypical fear mongering. It's basically scaring people into being afraid of the people before they actually arrive, which we know that that's not, lot based on logic. But politics isn't based on logic. Politics typically is driven by getting emotional reactions out of people, getting them to be afraid. And so, why is this so fascinating to me? Well, the reason it's fascinating to me is because when this ad came out, all the Democrats are going crazy saying this is racist, this is racist, this is racist. Is the ad racist? It depends on how you define it. I will say that it's up to you to make that decision. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the ad, and then we're going to talk about, I'm going to analyze it and break it down in terms of what I see. Now, as I do this, if you just came in, I know it's late at night, so this is going to be, a fun little conversation. Go ahead and hit the like button, share button, and subscribe button. Make sure that you subscribe to drboycetv.com. If you're on Instagram and you want to see this ad, you cannot see this ad on Instagram, but if you want to see it on Facebook, it's on my Facebook page. Some of you are on facebook.com/drboycewatkins. The ad is actually on my page if you want to watch the ad. If you're on YouTube, you'll see it because I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I would share it with everybody, but I can only share it with the people on YouTube. So if you want to see the screen share, if you want to see the screen share, just go to drboycetv.com. That's drboycetv.com, and you can actually just watch it on YouTube. But if you're on Instagram, you got to go to either the YouTube channel or the Facebook page to see it. If you're on Facebook, you can actually see it on the Facebook page. So I tried to put it out there. I wish I could put it up for you guys on Instagram, but I don't quite know how to do that yet. All right, so here's the ad, and I want you guys to look at this, and then for those who are on Instagram, I'll explain to you what the ad says and what this kind of means, like what's really kind of going on here, and how this affects Black people. I mean, that's the most important thing. We're here for Black people. We talk about Black folks. So at the end of the day, we're the center of the universe in this space. So, hey, Duel, what's going on, Duel? I'm surprised you're up this late, but I'm glad you're up. All right, so here we go. Let me play this, turn this volume up. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please step out of the hallway.
They're fucking dead. They're fucking break up soon, and I'll kill more. See, the only thing that fucking regret is if I can just kill two. I wish I could kill more of those motherfuckers. I'll kill more cops soon.
Pedir un perdón.
He says he wants to apply for pardon for the felony he committed. Attempt of murder.
Okay, so apparently, this ad is set up to by the Republicans to make, and really mainly by Trump, but the Republican Party, I'm sure they don't have a big problem with these arguments. Basically, they're saying we're going to make America safe again, and the way we're going to make America safe is going to keep these crazy, scary immigrants out of the country, and that's what we're going to do, right? Okay, so the ad, feel free to make a comment. Let me know if you think the ad was racist or not. And I'm going to kind of break it down a little bit. Here's the thing about that ad that I think you want to pay attention to. So in the ad, and those of you who couldn't see it, I'll tell you what it was. The ad basically had a guy, I can't remember his name, Luis something, who was a crazy, who was a cop killer. He killed some cops. He got in court and he, I guess kept it gangster and basically was like, I don't regret it. I would do it again. Once you lock me up, I'm gonna bust out of prison and I'm gonna go kill some more cops, right? That's kind of what the guy, was saying. Okay, and so their obvious argument is, look, you should be afraid of all these immigrants coming in this caravan because they got people like this in the crowd. Everybody ain't like this, but you're gonna have one out of maybe every 50 who might come in here and kill some cops, maybe one out of every 100, even if it's one out of every 1,000. Watch out, don't let them in because they got people like this in their group. Okay. And then they show, rowdiness and people trying to break the chains and big mobs of people, brown people from south of the border trying to come to the country. And they've even got the guy saying, I'm coming to the United States, hoping that I can get pardoned for attempted murder. So all this is fear, 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 be afraid, be very afraid, fear-mongering 101. Now, a lot of people have connected this ad to an ad that was done back in the 80s about a guy named Willie Horton. It was what kept Governor Michael Dukakis from becoming president. They basically showed in Massachusetts, where Dukakis was the governor, they had a scary black man named Willie Horton, who got out on a furlough program in Massachusetts, and I guess he killed a white girl or something. He did something terrible and murdered somebody, and that was enough to get Ronald Reagan into the White House. And so people compared this ad to the Willie Horton ad. I think that comparison is accurate in the sense that it's using fear-mongering to drive support for what the Republican position on immigration and dealing with the people coming across the border. Now, with that said, here's what's interesting to me as a black man, as I'm watching this kind of happen. The fear-mongering thing, one can certainly make the accusation that the Republicans have engaged in fear-mongering, to get support for their cause. But let's be clear, the Democrats use fear-mongering all the time. To pay attention. Let me ask you this: how often is it that you're told by somebody who supports the Democrats that you gotta, the Democrats aren't perfect, but you gotta vote because if the Republicans get in office, all hell's gonna break loose, right? If Trump gets in office again, it's gonna be the end of the world. If the Republicans are controlling Congress, they're gonna destroy everything. It's gonna be terrible, right? They literally almost make you feel like Like they're going to reinstate slavery. They're going to start just lynching black people on the street. They're going to start raping black women just for no reason. And all this stuff. Well, not that you should ever have a reason to rape anybody, but you get the point, right? And so basically the fear mongering piece, my point on that is to say that the fear mongering piece happens on both sides. Both sides use fear to get support. Let's just be clear. Both sides use irrational fear to get support. Even during the Trump presidency, I think Trump has a lot of issues, but when he got elected, they literally acted like this was the scariest thing to have ever happened in America ever, right? And I'm not saying that it wasn't. I'm not saying that Trump, is the ideal president, but I was like, okay, he's another white guy in the White House, he's a little weird, a little crazy, but it's not as devastating as people want to portray it to be, right? My life, honestly, Trump's been in office for 2 years now. My life ain't really changed that much. The lives of most people I know hasn't changed that much. And I challenge you, go talk to most of your friends and say, how has your life changed since, Trump got in the White House? Do you have less food, in your house than you had when Obama was in? When Obama was in, was Obama sending you checks and free groceries and reparations for breakfast every morning? Was he giving you reparations for breakfast? Like, what was happening during the Obama presidency that was so substantial that it fundamentally changed your day-to-day life when Trump got in office? Did you lose your job? I mean, if you lost your job, now if you work for the government, maybe you lost your job. Maybe if you work for Obama, you lost again, I don't know. Most people I know don't work for Obama. Most people I know, they might work at the post office, work at Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut still, you still working at Pizza Hut, still making your money, right? Most of it was emotional theater. That's what it was. It was emotional political theater. If you did not watch the news, if you did not pay attention to all the chit chat on social media, you probably wouldn't even know if a Democrat or a Republican was in office, because a lot of times, in a lot of areas, if you really analyze the policies, they're not that much different. Thanks to Bill Clinton for that. Bill Clinton in the 90s decided that the best way to get reelected was to be a Democrat, but to act just like a Republican, which was a brilliant move strategically, but it was a bad move for the country because now they're all kind of the same, right? So the fear mongering piece happens on both sides. Everything that the Democrats accuse the Republicans of doing, the Democrats have done themselves. They're all playing the same game of political tennis. They're all hitting the ball the same way with the same velocity, etc. Now, with that said, I want to point out some things about this immigration debate that you're not going to really hear in mainstream media. I was so intrigued by this whole situation that I literally got up right now. If you're watching this like super live, like right in the moment I'm making this video, it's literally the middle of the night. And I know a lot of y'all are in here watching in the middle of the night because I said, I got to get this out. I got to make sure I share this so that we can have some perspective on this. Because right now, people are not logical. People are not intelligent. People are emotional and dumb. That's pretty much what it is. Everybody, most of the media, what they're feeding you is propaganda. For example, people say, George Soros is behind it. The terrible Jew is controlling the world and doing these terrible things. I don't think that's the case. But I think at the same time, when I read media headlines that say it's a complete lie that George Soros has anything to do with the media caravan, with the immigrant caravan, pay attention. When they say it's a lie, it's interesting that even CNN is like, it's a lie, it's a lie, it's a lie. USA Today, it's a lie, it's a lie, it's a lie. And I'm like, okay, well, if it's a lie, I believe you that it's a lie, but what's the truth? Okay, if Soros isn't doing it, what's going on? I know it ain't a coincidence. It may not be, it may or may not be a lie, but we know it ain't a coincidence, right? That all these people are coming up north to cross the border right around election time, right? So if Soros did not do it, then what is the origin of this? Is it somebody in El Salvador or Mexico that's putting this together? Is it the Republicans? Is it Trump who put it together to try to, get people riled up and afraid? Is it another Democrat? So when you go out of your way in the media to say it's a lie that Soros had nothing to do with it, when we know Soros is deep in politics, we know Soros is heavy in terms of creating things and being, a financially backing political operatives and things like that. I mean, Black Lives Matter was a Soros operation. Like, think about this. A lot of y'all have been a part of organizations that can't even get off the ground. A lot of y'all done started organizations that can't get more than 20 members. How is it that suddenly out of the blue, pop, poof, Black Lives Matter just magically appears, and it's all over the United States, and suddenly you've got all these leaders, these who are getting access to media, and you're like, where did these people come from? Who are these people? DeRay McKeeson, that whatever the guy's name was, where did he come from? And why do all the leaders just happen to be gay? Well, they did that because they wanted to push forward the gay agenda in the Black community, which is part of the liberal establishment, the liberal, what they consider to be progressive thought or whatever. So they said, we're going to take the gay section of the Black community, and we're going to give them more power than everyone else, so that people will see them in a certain light. It's not anti-gay, it's just pro-truth. It's just the truth, right? So ultimately, I just found it interesting that the media went out of its way to, they went out of its way to dispel the myth that Soros was involved, but they did not provide an alternative explanation. So anytime anybody goes out of their way to tell you something ain't true, it kind of makes you wonder, like, I think it might be true, because y'all really trying really extra hard right now, right? So anyway, let me talk a little bit more about the immigration issue from a Dr. Claude Anderson Powernomics standpoint. Before I do that, if you're on YouTube, take 1 second, please. Stop for what you're doing, and please hit the thumbs up button real quick. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere else, please do that. Also, if you want to follow on YouTube, you can actually go subscribe at drboycetv.com. That's drboycetv.com. And also, I want to remind you guys, if you're watching before November 1st, I'm going to actually do a lecture tomorrow on how to think like a CEO, how to, once you quit your job, how to think like a person that's actually going to build a business. It requires a shift in thinking. So if you want to check out the seminar, it does come with a small fee, but the money goes right back into the Black community. You can check it out at drboyceseminars.com. That's drboyceseminars.com. So somebody please type that in, drboyceseminars.com, and you can check it out. Bring your family. Bring your family. Okay. So let me dig into this whole situation about immigration and racism. Every time Trump or anybody says something that's anti-illegal immigration, the way they try to get support to bolster their view of illegal immigration, they use terms, powerful terms that they end up watering down because they use them for anything that benefits them politically. The number one term they use is racist. Well, you're against illegal immigration, you're a racist. You said something about, someone from Mexico, that's racist, right? And what they're doing is they're linking the struggle, the 400-year struggle of African Americans, the fight for civil rights, all these other things, to pretty much anything that's not involving a white male, anything that's that supports their agenda, anything that supports their view on immigration, right? Like, for example, they would never say that it's racist when people attack Black conservatives for being conservative. I know a lot of Black conservatives who are good people. They're good friends of mine. We just may or may not agree on certain things politically, but they get attacked pretty hard, from both sides of the aisle. And nobody really says, oh, well, that's racist too, right? And so typically it's sort of like it's defined to be racist when either A, you don't support, you don't push for Black people to all be Democrats, or B, you have something involving some brown group from another country who may not identify with African Americans, who may care nothing about African American issues, and that person's not getting their way. If I can't, break into the country illegally and come here and have a baby and have that baby be a citizen or do whatever I want, then you're a racist for not letting me come into your country and do whatever the hell I want. That's really kind of bullshit, to be honest with you. If you look at the entire United States, or excuse me, not the United States, the entire globe, most countries have far stricter immigration policies than we have in the U.S. We have very open borders, very open borders. In China, when I was in China, I had to get a visa just to be there. And they were like, why are you here? How long are you here? Where are you going to be at? When are you going to leave? If I did not leave in that amount of time, they would come get me. In fact, they didn't even let me they only let you take so much money out of the country. They're like, you can't take our money. You're not taking money out of our community. So whatever money you make here, you got to spend it here. If you don't spend it here, then you can't have it, right? So they have some pretty strict policies about, in terms of protecting their community, right? The United States does not protect its community, which I think is going to be the downfall of this country. But anyway, with that said, though, and we need to make this clear too. A lot of people that they have an issue with illegal immigration have no issue with legal immigration, right? So they may not support somebody breaking in and violating federal law in order to get into the country. Remember, There are black people who violated federal law in the 80s and 90s who are still in prison to this day, who got 10 life sentences for nonviolent drug possession. They're still locked up. And so if you're trying to let people off the hook for violating federal law, then you should go back and get all those nonviolent drug offenders who are prisoners of war right now and release them. Why are they not doing that? They're not doing it because they don't care about black people. The Democrats don't care about black people. The Republicans don't care about black people, because if they cared about black people, they would understand black people suffer more than anybody, and they will put black people first. But because they don't care about black people, what they've done is they've lumped you in with illegal immigrants. And now, no disrespect to illegal immigrants, but black people, you're not illegal immigrants. Let me say that again. Slowly. Black people, you are not illegal immigrants. You're not. There's a difference between living in a country and that country being your home and a place that you built versus coming to the country as a foreigner. If an illegal immigrant comes over from Mexico and I say, look, I'm African American, I live here, this is my house. And somebody says, oh, that's wrong, that's racist, you shouldn't say that. No, check it out. If I go to Mexico, that's going to be their house. If I go to Mexico, they're going to say, we Mexican. This is our shit. You're a black guy who came from another country. You can stay as long as we want you to stay, but just understand this is our house. If I go to China, when I went to China, at no point could I go through China and say, I am Chinese and I have as much of a right to be in China as a Chinaman. They would look at me like I was out of my motherfucking mind. They would say, what the hell are you talking about? No, we let you, you're here because we allow you to be. But the minute we decide you're going to go home, you're going to go home, and you're not going to disrespect our immigration laws by trying to stay, or we will lock your ass up and throw away the key and then deport you after we torture you in prison for a while. Right. So just know that. I think it's very important. I think black people need to really internalize this, because when they say, well, he doesn't support illegal immigration, so he's racist, they're comparing it, they're equating that to racism that black people have endured. Those are not the same. It's no different from when they used to say that being gay was the new black, that what gay people go through is the same thing that black people went through. No, it's not. It's not the same thing. No, sorry, it's not. It's bad. It's horrible. Wish you well, but it ain't the same thing, right? So I think that's really, really important to understand. And I think for black people, we got to understand that, so that when we hear these Negro political operatives on TV, on CNN and stuff like the Angela Rye's of the world, we realize that, that they're saying these things because somebody's paying them. They're saying these things because it's good for them. They're part of that what they call that boule, that black elite that benefit from their affiliation with the Democratic Party. And when the Democrats get in power, what they do is they promote these Negroes into powerful positions. So really, for the most part, the Democratic Party, the Republicans are right about one thing. The Democratic Party is a plantation. The white man is typically in charge, or maybe they let a high yellow Negro get some pretend power, and they have their overseers. The overseers are the black people who are responsible for delivering the Democratic vote. That would be individuals. I'm not calling people out. I'm just the proof is in the potato salad. Just look at it, make your own decision. Don't believe it because I said it. But you look at what Angela Rye does. Big with the Democratic Party, the Congressional Black Caucus, all that stuff. She's an operative. She works for the party. You have the most members of the Congressional Black Caucus. They know where their bread is buttered. So for example, they'll work harder to defend Israel than they will work to defend the black community, because it's because they get their money from certain organizations that are supportive of anything that Israel does. And I don't want to talk much more about that, because I don't want to even sound anti-Semitic in the midst of this environment, because the Jewish community just went through a terrible tragedy, and I empathize with that. But I think it's important to state the facts. Cory Booker, boom, that's another example of a person that, he's not your guy, he's their guy. He's their guy, but he looks like he's your guy, which makes some people think he's your guy. He's not your guy, he's their guy. It's okay for him to be their guy, but what you can't do is you can't be two things. You can't be, a man ain't supposed to be married to two women at once, right? You can't, say I belong to the black community, while at the same time saying I belong to this political, this pack, that pack, this corporation, that corporation, and to the Democratic Party itself. Barack Obama wasn't really your guy. He was designed to sort of corral black people and bring them in to the fold. Al Sharpton is another example. There's quite a few out there. There's quite a few. Michael Eric Dyson, unfortunately. I love Michael. And I mean, he was my #1 inspiration for why I became a public scholar. But I was very sad to see, the extent to which I feel he was tempted to be sucked in to the Democratic Party by that money, the fame, the power, the access, So if you go to, for example, things like the Congressional Black Caucus convention every year, that's what you see. You see elite Negroes seeking power through integration and civil rights, which allows them to sit next to white folks in important positions that white people have created for them. They have these set-asides for the Black elite, which come as a reward for them to deliver Black voters to the polls. That's why whenever there's an election, the same people are the ones that are doing the get out the vote campaigns. The same usual suspects, the Van Jones, et cetera. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm not saying that they're horrible, unethical human beings. I'm saying that you've got to make sure you understand what they are and who they work for, so you don't get your heart broken. It's like me telling my daughter, like, look, he's saying he's married to you. He's saying he's with you, but really he's with her. Like he said, he tells you he loves you, but if you look at where he's spending his money on her. If you look at where he's spending his time on her. If you look at where he goes on Christmas and Thanksgiving, he goes to see her during the day, and then he comes to see you at night if he's got time, right? If you look at who he puts on his Facebook page, he's putting her on his Facebook page, not you, right? So that doesn't mean that you don't have a place. It just means that you're not the top priority for that person. So for many of our Black elite, Black people can't be the top priority. And a lot of that actually links back to the economic situation that we keep ourselves in, because we haven't yet harnessed our $1 trillion a year in spending power to turn that to $1 trillion a year in investing power to really establish the economic base necessary to climb up that ladder of power that Dr. Claude Anderson talks about in Powernomics. Remember the ladder of power. You start with the economic base, then you buy the politicians, then you buy all you buy the judges and the police force and all that stuff. And then after that, you buy your media, and then you buy your education. So that's kind of the ladder that he says. So he says the economics, though, is the base. So if you try to build the third floor of the building without building the first floor, the building is going to crumble. So if you're focused more on voting than you are on economics, then you're not going to be able to build anything powerful. Now, Burke is asking me, what did I think about the brother and sister that was killed at Kroger? I did a video on that. Long story short, happened in Louisville, Kentucky, 5 minutes from my mom's house. I feel terrible about what happened. It was basically, a person who doesn't like Black people, surprise, surprise. And I look at it the same way I would look at it if a Black man went off and shot white people and said, I kill white people, right? It's not quite the same, because obviously, we have more reason to be upset than other people do, but I wouldn't stand by a brother who just went and shot innocent white people. I wouldn't support that. I don't believe in that. But at the same time, I think, it's a reminder, it's a wake-up call to remind you of the fact that because we've rolled with the liberals who tell us that gun control is a good thing, that we shouldn't want guns, we shouldn't exercise our right to own a gun. White folks have about 99.5% of the guns, right? And so, because the civil rights movement and their connection to the left, to the deep left, sometimes as far as the communist and socialist parties, that connection has caused you to basically be a group of people that are defenseless against anybody that decides they want to come and kill you. That's why somebody can go and shoot up a Black church and nobody in that church will have a weapon, because we've been taught to believe that we are not supposed to carry weapons. They go to the hood and they will take the guns out of the hood by offering like bags of groceries or, $50 for your guns or whatever, as if the hood has the majority of the guns. And we know that's not true. Guns are not made in the hood. The majority of the guns are not in the hood. And they never do a gun for groceries program out in Hillbilly County where white folks live, right? They'll do that in the hood because it's long-term history. I mean, every group of people, every oppressed group of people, ever has had an oppressor that went out of their way to make sure that those people could never defend themselves, that they had no weapons. They always did that. In South Africa during apartheid, if they even found out that you thought about getting any kind of military training, they would come and they might kill your whole family. They might lock up your mama. If a young man left the country and they thought that he was leaving the country to go get military training, or they couldn't figure out where he was, they might go get his family. They might go arrest his relatives, because they didn't want black people to have military training. They did not want them to have weapons. And that's why, even going back into the Civil War, pre-Civil War, they didn't want black people having guns at all. So that's what it reminds me of, and I'm speaking on that because I want to make sure you guys know that I did have something to say about that, because I don't want people to think I wasn't paying attention to that. Do this real quick. Make sure you hit the like button, share button, subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, take a second, hit that thumbs up button. If you're on Facebook or Instagram and you want to follow on YouTube, you can go to drboycetv.com. That's drboycetv.com. Also, if you want to join our League of Intelligent Black People, where we ask you to support the channel and support our quest to build Black media. In exchange, we give you lots and lots of free stuff, lots of exclusive access. You can even tell me which topics you want me to cover, ask questions, things like that, and I'll answer your questions. You can go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. Our goal is twofold. One, to build Black media where we can reach Black people around the world, because we don't have enough Black media. And number two, we want to make Black intelligence the coolest thing ever. And we're well on our way. We have over 330,000 subscribers now. And also, for the first time ever, we crossed 20 million minutes of video viewed last month. 20 million minutes of video reviewed last month. That was the first time we ever did that. We're super excited. We're approaching. We're not that far from 100 million views total on the channels. So we're really kicking butt. It's really going really well, and your support is extremely appreciated, and your participation. So anyway, that's intelligentblackpeople.com. Okay, so let me read. I'm gonna read a little bit from Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Black Labor, White Wealth. This is something. You see, the book is ripped because I've just been going through it, and I literally, I just mark it up, like crazy, and underline stuff, and put letters and numbers by stuff because I really want to go through it and really understand it. And it's the kind of thing you got to read multiple times. And so this hits on this immigration issue. I really want to understand the history of immigration, because, I think that if you know the history of what's going on with the immigration debate, then you're able to understand what's happening now. Somebody's asking, am I live now? Yes, I am. But then again, if I were recorded and I said I'm live now, then it would sound like I was live. But does it really matter if I'm live or not live? I'm still the same person. You're still hearing the same information. So it don't really matter. So Phil, let's focus on what matters, man. All right, anyway, so check this out. I'm gonna read this to you, and I want you to process this, and we're gonna talk about each point by point. I have a few points I wanna cover that will help you understand this immigration debate, this caravan, this racism, and basically why and how it's kind of going down the way it is, and why the Democrats and Republicans are blowing it up the way they are. So he says, Dr. Claude Anderson, talking about immigration, and racism, the use of the term racism to describe an immigration policy when it's historically used to talk about how Black people are treated. Grouping Blacks with lesser aggrieved groups, in effect, mutes and obscures the legitimate grievances of Blacks, while veiling the moral, legal, and financial responsibility the dominant society has to correct the suffering of 36 million Black Americans. Now, there were 36 million at the time this book was written. There's over 40 million now. Declarations that the country is now colorblind are misstatements that resolve nothing. The colorblind myth simply maintains the status quo, thereby keeping Blacks non-competitive and marginal. If 4 centuries of slavery and Jim Crowism have taught Blacks anything about race relations, it is that as long as people can see, color will be a factor. So ultimately, then he says, by nature and nurture, humans are motivated to be self-centered and to place their self-interest above others. Self-interest leads to competition among individuals and groups for material and social gains. So long story short, what he's saying here when he talks about grouping Blacks with less aggrieved groups, this is what's happening when they use this logic where they say Donald Trump doesn't support illegal immigration. Therefore, Donald Trump is a racist. Therefore, Donald Trump hates Black people, right? That's not really an accurate sort of statement. Now, does Donald Trump like Black people? I don't know. I wouldn't want to be buddies with him. He seems kind of like a prick. But I know he has some Black friends. his first bodyguard, these other people that were important in his life were black. So he clearly doesn't hate every black person, but maybe the collective of us all he doesn't like, or maybe black people he thinks are criminals or whatever. I don't know, but that's not the issue. The issue though is that when they tell you that he's a racist because he doesn't support immigration policy, what they're doing is they're lumping the plight of blacks with the plight of illegal immigrants. Not to say illegal immigrants don't have a legitimate plight. That's up to you to decide how you feel about illegal immigration and open borders. But black people are not illegal immigrants. In America, if you can't get a preferred status in your own damn country, where can you get a preferred status at all? Again, I beg you to tell me this. Look, if I'm going to be, as a black man, compared to an illegal immigrant that comes from, El Salvador, I want to ask you this: if you flip it and I go to El Salvador, will the El Salvadoran government see me as equal to a person in El Salvador, or would they say, look, our citizens have to come first. We got to take care of the people that are here. Boys, we know you're an illegal immigrant. You wanted to get away from Donald Trump, so you came down here. We'll get to you, but we got to get to our people first, right? So for black people, what's happened is that we allowed this. The black elite allowed this. The black elite who are, who these political operatives who sit next to their masters in the Democratic Party and everything else, they pretty much allowed the civil rights movement to be hijacked by anybody who had some sort of issue or some sort of concern, and while these issues and concerns might have been legitimate, they needed to be separated so we could focus on the key factor that matters for black people is the fact that for 400 years, we were treated as like crap. We were treated horribly for 400 years. We deserve at least $10 trillion in reparations. Now, if you want to go take care of an illegal immigrant after you pay me my $10 trillion or pay our community the $10 trillion you owe us, it's all good. But don't go and put the needs of an illegal immigration or illegal immigrant ahead of the needs of black people who have ancestors who've suffered and built this country for 400 years. It's wrong, it's unfair. It wouldn't be allowed by anybody else. Now, the second point I want to draw your attention to is another thing he says here. He says, he talks about how other groups, how illegal immigration does not work in the favor of black people. And really even legal immigration does not work in the favor of black people. It's like this. It's like if in your house, you've got, 10 pieces of chicken, right? You got 10 pieces of chicken and they've been starving you for like 2 weeks. Everybody else, has had, chicken every day. You ain't had a piece for 2 weeks. So they owe you back chicken. There's 10 pieces, they owe you like 6, right? And there's 4 of you in the house, well, let's say there's 5 of you and there's 2 pieces of chicken for every person, but they owe you 6. So each person's going to sacrifice 1 piece of chicken for maybe 3 or 4 weeks or whatever, so that you can have your reparations. You can get the chicken that's owed to you. But what if somebody says, well, I want to bring my cousin them in to the house, right? And there's 8 of them. So now you got 13 people sharing 10 pieces of chicken. And you say, well, wait a minute. We're owed, as Vicky Dillard says, we're owed back chicken. You told us that we're owed 6 pieces of chicken. We can prove it. We got the documentation. We ain't like the white women. We don't show up and give you make accusations with no evidence. We got evidence. We got here's a deed that says that my uncle owned this land in 1888, and they murdered him and stole the land, and the land is still there, and now the land's worth $10 million. So that's our land. You should be giving this to us. We have proof. And they ignore that. They say, oh, well, yeah, but it's not right. And the past is the past, and let bygones be bygones. And it's not right to let those people stay outside when they need our chicken, when we can feed them. We should be feeding these people because it's the right thing to do. And you're like, yeah, it is the right thing to do. I agree. We want to help people. But what about helping the person who lives in this house who has been mistreated all this time, who is owed all of this chicken? You owe me 6 pieces. How are you going to pay me back my 6 and bring in 10 people off the goddamn street? Like you can't do that. You can't do that. So basically, he's talking about how immigration has hurt black people big time. But because black people have fallen, we've been smoking the crack pipe from the Democratic Party. We are as dumb as some of these rednecks who support Trump, because you talk about the rednecks who support Trump voting against their interests. You know, the ones that are on Obamacare, but they hate Hillary, so they voted for Trump. But Trump wants to kill Obamacare, so you're like, that's so stupid. Why would somebody do that? You voting against your interests. They'll talk about that all day. But what they don't talk about are the black people who are voting against our interests, because there's not much evidence to show that black people benefit from all these people coming into the country. And I'm going to dig more into that in a second. Let me not get ahead of myself. So listen to this. He says, on the other hand, ethnic immigrants and other minorities have directly profited from the marginal success of the Black civil rights movement that opened doors in the areas of employment, academics, and housing. The Black movement, in its various efforts to establish affirmative action, eliminate discrimination, and seek economic parity, has drawn most of the fire from a disapproving, reluctant white society. When forced to make a civil rights accommodation, whites have hired women, Asian, and Hispanic ethnics, and the handicapped ahead of blacks. So basically, they're like, okay, when affirmative action was created, Dr. Claude Anderson was one of the people that helped create the original affirmative action programs. He makes it clear. He says, look, this was for descendants of slaves. This was for black folks. This was it. This was giving black people their back chicken, the chicken that we were owed. This was chicken set aside to repay the debt to black people. And what happened was they started opening up that gate so everybody who had a grievance could get extra chicken. And then there was no chicken left for black folks. So affirmative action was created for you. Affirmative action was a program for African Americans. In fact, I remember when I was young, I remember them talking about the fact that if you were a black college graduate, you were in high demand because a lot of companies needed black people. They don't say that anymore. That's why a lot of black college graduates can't get the job they deserve. And many of them are going to die in debt because they can't repay their student loans. Because when hit with an affirmative action expectation, corporations are like, well, shit, we'll hire anybody except a nigga. What we got to do, we're going to get us some women. White women are the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action. We're going to get us some Asians. We're going to get some Hispanic immigrants. We're going to get some handicapped people. We're going to get some LGBT people. You know, like I mean, you know, I guess who you're having sex with can be the same as being black, right? You know, I wish I could get special exception for having sex. I like women with big noses, so that's a sexual preference. So I should get some preferential treatment because I like women with big noses, right? Like seriously, like okay, all right. So going on, so he talks more about this, and he says, the definition of minority continues to expand and to become more amorphous. Today, almost everyone is a minority in some way. Blacks are further undermined when included in a minority category because none of the other so-called minorities were statutorily deprived by the government of their humanity or their right to enjoy the fruits of their own labor. So none of these people that you're being lumped in with has gone through what you've gone through. None of them. Gay people, bless their soul, bless their hearts. We treat them badly. We need to treat the LGBT community better. I'm gonna make that clear. But gay people, bless their hearts, ain't gone through what black people gone through. Now, unless you're gay and black, in which case, yes, you have. White women have not gone through what you've gone through. Illegal immigrants, they are from another country. They didn't build this. They can get special treatment in their own country or fight for that. They can, and they can even get it here, but there has to be a hierarchy. Moving on. I'm reading from Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson. This is a book I highly recommend you have your children read. I think your children should read this book like 10 times. I swear to God. It will make a huge difference in their understanding of America. You can actually get a copy if you go to blacklaborwhitewealth.com. You can get a copy from us, blacklaborwhitewealth.com. Somebody please type that in if you heard it, blacklaborwhitewealth.com. All right, so let's see, let's keep going. So then the question is, he says, blacks, immigrants or not? Are we immigrants or are we not? Pay attention, this is deep. He says, historians often refer to American Indians as the nation's only indigenous or non-immigrant population group. This notion is false. If American Indians are America's only non-immigrants, then that would make blacks immigrants, which they are not. The ancestors of African American, or excuse me, the ancestors of American Indians migrated to North America across the Bering Straits from Asia. Black Americans did not immigrate to America. They were transported to America against their will. Inherent in the term immigrant is the element of choice and the selection of a new home or a new nation. Understand this, so pay attention. You are part of the indigenous population too, or you're something. I don't know if you're not an immigrant. That's for damn sure. That's the first thing we've established. Now, are you part of the indigenous population? Well, it depends on how you look at it, right? There are people, I've met Sertima and others who might say that the Africans were here before everybody, and I agree with that. I believe Africans did a lot of stuff that they don't get credit for. There's evidence of Africans being all over the world, and we should respect that for sure. But definitely, if you talk about the last 1,000 years or last 500 years, even in America, we know how we got here. We know how African Americans got here. Next point. Let me read on. Let me see. Okay, page 102. I'm gonna pull it. I made notes because I said, okay, if we're gonna talk about this, let's have an educated conversation, because we're not talking about this in an intelligent way. And again, I told you, intelligent Black people, I believe, should push for a different conversation. And you ain't even got to be intelligent. If you just want to be intelligent, strive to be intelligent. Eventually, you will be intelligent. So even if you're not intelligent yet, you will be after you listen to us for a while. So here he talks about competition for resources. This information allows you to determine what your view will be on immigration without it being tainted by what the Democratic Party or the Republican Party tells you. I keep talking about the Democratic Party, not because I want to attack the Democratic Party. I talk about the Democratic Party because most Black people are Democrats. Now, most Black people are Republicans. I probably talk more about the Republican Party because I don't like the Republicans either. But let's talk about the Democrats, and let's sort of form our own opinion when it comes to immigration. So here he talks about the competition for resources. Think about this again. If you only got so much food in the house, and you got a sibling that's bringing in 50 people from outside the house, eventually you're gonna run out of food. You can't have enough food for everybody. And if you're already the butt naked stepchild who's being disrespected, who ain't getting fed, do you really think you're gonna get fed more when all these people are coming in? No, you're not. They're gonna take care of the guests before they take care of the little stepchild. That's just what it is. So a continuing flow of immigrants, decade after decade, from 1607 to the present day, came believing that America abounded with freedom and wealth. Common sense dictates that they had anticipated they would face pay attention now. Common sense dictates that had they anticipated that they would face the same kind of life that most Black people face, immigration would have ceased immediately after the first boatload arrived. So if they'd known that they were going to arrive on the shores and be treated like straight up niggas, they would have said, I'm going to take my ass back home. If they had got to the shores and found out, like, okay, you can come in, but you're going to be right here with the Black people, they would have said, shit, anything's worse than being a nigga. I don't want that. I'm going to go back to China. I'm going to go back to Mexico. I'm about to go back to Europe. I'm about to go back to India. I'm getting the hell up out of here, right? So the fact was that they were not treated like Black people. They were given preferential treatment ahead of Blacks. As a matter of fact, ethnic and racial immigrants historically have been a wedge between whites and Blacks, giving whites an alternative to interacting with Blacks. So the thing is that American hatred for the Black man and the Black woman is so deep that they hate you so much that basically immigration is like, I will deal with anybody as long as I ain't got to deal with African Americans. As long as I ain't got to deal with these niggas over here, I will do business with somebody from Saudi Arabia. I will work with somebody from Mexico. I will work with somebody even from Africa. Like even Africa is put ahead of African Americans. And you saw how African Americans are seen by even the entire world. Because remember, this niggerish media that portrays Black people in ridiculous ways, this is seen all throughout the globe. So even people that come from African countries come here and don't want to talk to you. My friend told me about a Jamaican woman who literally said that she was Caucasian. She came here, black as my iPhone, talking about Talking about she Caucasian. I swear to God, said she was Caucasian. She said, I don't want to be, I don't want to be one of those people. I'm not one of them, right? And so basically, this immigration allows them to allocate resources and to deal with people that aren't like you. And in the movie The Black Panther, you saw some of that. You saw some of how Black people are seen by the world. You had you had Wakanda with these beautiful Black people that were intelligent, scientific, on top of the game, had the best technology, were unified, had loving relationships, took care of the animals, good people, just had all the power in the world. And then you had this big nigga named Killmonger. This motherfucker grew up in Oakland, ain't got no mama, daddy got shot, was probably slanging, doing something illegal, tried to fuck up everything that they had going on in Wakanda, grows up damaged, mentally disturbed, wants to kill everything breathing, gets to Wakanda and disrupts everything, goes in, just takes everything that's sacred and just says, burn it up, burn all the purple flowers. You ain't gonna be no another king after me. It's grabbing Big Mama, the respected woman in the tribe, and grabs her by the neck like, bitch, I'm gonna fuck you up, right? That's coming from hip hop culture. That disrespect for women, disrespect for the queens of the household is coming from hip hop culture. That portrayal of the African-American male as nothing more than a savage, motherless, maniacal beast, subhuman, the perfect villain. That's what we've always been. And that's exactly the way we've been portrayed to the world. And that's how the world sees us when they get here. So they don't identify with us. They don't come over here so they can unify with us. They don't come over here so they can share resources with us. At best, they come over here so they can make money from us, or they come over here so they can sit and spit on us like everybody else. And when I went to Kentucky State University to interview for a job a few years ago, I met a professor in the business school who was a white guy from Europe. This guy sat with me. It was the craziest thing. And he talked to me about those Black students like they were the scum of the earth, like they were the biggest pack of idiots on the planet, that he was only there teaching at that school because he could not find a better job, that these people were dumb, that they weren't going to listen. I don't know why he thought he could talk to me like that. Maybe he felt like because I was a professor like him, that I was into that elitism thing. But it blew my mind. I said, these are the types of people that you would hire to teach our babies and teach our children. And then you wonder why our people are so screwed up. Let me keep going. Each time in history, either before or after a war, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Each time in history, either before or after a war, when the American economy was expanding and could have offered material economic benefits to Blacks, a new influx of immigrants or refugees arrived to fill the void and further exile Blacks from fruitful participation in national life, according to Dan Lacey. So basically, whenever they had enough chicken to make up for the back chicken they owed you, so the household got 10 pieces of chicken, they get a chicken delivery, KFC truck comes by, they bring in a new bucket, and you like, oh yeah, I'm about to get my chicken that I'm owed. They done did me wrong, but Jesus taught me to forgive. So I just been patiently waiting and biding my time. And now we about to eat good. They call up their homies. They call up the neighbors. They're like, hey, we got extra chicken, y'all. Come on in. Or chicken for everybody. And then they still got your ass in the basement, hungry as hell, mad. And you sitting there like a damn fool talking about, well, you told me that that if I help you greet the guests, that I would get to eat too. And when's am I gonna get some of the chicken too, massa? And they're looking at you like you, I guess you didn't get the memo, but you still a nigga. And that's how we look literally giving the Democratic Party our support in every election, sitting back, waiting our turn. Like, oh yeah, this is when they're gonna take care of the Black people. They're gonna do it right this time. They're gonna do it right this time. And then they let you down every time. They literally let you down every time. And they just kind of laugh. They're like, this is a fun little game. Like, he's obviously too stupid to figure it out. So we're gonna keep doing it until he figures this out. So anyway, so he says a major myth is that there has been competition between Blacks and ethnic groups. There has been no such competition. European ethnics simply bumped Blacks from whatever they were interested in getting because they were higher in the order of social preference. So after they finished competing for jobs, housing, or union control, blacks then applied for anything that was available. If racial customs did not exclude blacks, they optimistically waited until jobs or housing were passed down through the ethnic hierarchy, extending from English down to Jewish. So basically, we sat around, again, waiting for our turn to eat some chicken. Every time they tell you, well, we got to feed the neighbors, we got to feed this. Well, you know this, it's the good Christian thing to do for us to feed our neighbors. The neighbors got here and they were hungry. And you're like, yeah, you're right, master. They hungry. They go feed them first. Feed them, and then we can get around. We can feed me later, right? No, you're supposed to walk up in there and say, feed them, give them all the food that they can eat after we take our pieces of chicken. After you give me my 6 pieces that you owe me, you can do whatever the hell you want. I don't care. So anyway, let me keep going. Next, today there is little cooperation. Pay attention now. There is little cooperation, political or otherwise, between blacks and minority groups. That means they're coming to the country and they're not helping you with nothing. They're not supporting any of your most important causes. They do not care about what's going on in your communities. They do not care about the wealth gap. They do not care about the unemployment gap. They do not care about anything because they believe, they've been led to believe that the reason that that they're coming into the house and eating chicken at Massa's table and you're sitting in the basement starving on bologna sandwiches, the reason that in their mind they were told that the reason you're not eating with everyone else is because you're screwed up, because you don't deserve to eat, because you're too lazy to eat, or because you threw away the food that you had, right? That's what they're being told. They're not being taught history. How many illegal immigrants that come into America are really fully educated on the history of racism in America and how that affects Black communities today? How many people really understand that history? Not many. I mean, I'm literally reading from this book and giving y'all, information that is probably new to a lot of you because this is not taught in the public schools. What's taught in the public schools is that America's wonderful. America's always been great, always been fair. Yeah, America made a couple mistakes, but they corrected everything. Now everybody has the same opportunity. Everything's good, right? That's pretty much what they teach. So if you're an immigrant and you come in and you've seen media and you've seen the way Black people are portrayed and you hear this story that, look, America's great, and you're feeling that America's the land of opportunity, you're no different from somebody who comes into a house again, where they feed you well, they take good care of you, and the people running the house, you're thinking, these are such nice people. My God, who could not enjoy living in a house like this, right? You ever hear immigrants talk about America is great, it's the land of opportunity? Well, that's because they've never been a nigger. They can't identify with a person in the basement. They can't identify with that. They're thinking that the reason you're in the basement, looking raggedy, looking tired, all strung out, and whatever, is because you're choosing to be that way. What they don't tell you is that the reason that you're in the basement looking crazy, starving to death, not getting to eat, is because the person who's treating them extremely well has starved you for the last X number of years, right? Starved you, robbed you, and deprived you all the time. So for Black people, we have people that come into America who have no idea of the history of America. They think white people are wonderful. They think that America is fair and gracious and giving to everyone. And they don't understand why African Americans end up at the bottom of the barrel. Their only conclusion is, well, it must be because something's wrong with them, right? It's no different. I mean, think about it. Imagine if you saw somebody in a household and this woman was acting crazy and ridiculous and stealing, and she was stinky, and she was a liar, and she was doing all these terrible things to everybody. You would be like, what the hell's wrong with her? And let's say her parents are there and they're like, well, we don't know. We try, we put her in private school and blah, 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 right? And they're like, oh, well, we just don't, you're going to think, oh, you poor thing, you got to deal with, oh, you're so loving that you put up with this crazy bitch. Like, wow, that's so great. Like, that's how they look at us, they look at white people and they're like, oh my God, the fact that you're so patient with these people, despite their insanity, makes you angelic in our minds, right? But what they don't tell you in that household is that little girl who's acting crazy and stinking and on drugs and acting ridiculous, that her daddy molested her for the last 16 years, right? Her daddy was sneaking in the bedroom and doing horrible things to her. I found out about a woman like that the other day. She told me not too long ago, she said, I just found out that my uncle used to molest my sister, and then he passed her around to his friends when she was like 8 years old. And that's why my sister has had trouble getting her life together. That's what somebody told me not too long ago, right? So in the same scenario, in that same analogy, you've got a household where the guests are coming in, everything looks wonderful, everything looks clean, but the house has secrets that they are never going to tell. because the person who runs the house does not want to look like they are bad people, right? So ultimately for Black folks, that's what you're dealing with. You've got people that don't want anything to do with you. So there's little cooperation, political or otherwise, between Blacks and minority groups. For the most part, ethnic minorities do not support Black causes. They have been getting a free ride at Black people's expense on civil rights and minority programs. As members of loosely formed political coalitions, they are mostly quiet while Blacks agitate, but they are quick to stake their claim on affirmative action benefits won by Blacks. So right now, for example, in Harvard University, you've got Asians suing Harvard because they feel their admissions policy is biased against Asians, right? And they're trying to, and basically what this lawsuit's all about is it's basically being funded by people who want to get rid of affirmative action. They want to make Harvard into the whitest school in America once again, right? And so they're kind of doing this Make America White Again kind of thing at Harvard University, and basically. What's fascinating is that you have a lot of people that have benefited from affirmative action programs that were initially designed for Black people that are now attacking Black people in the same way. By the way, if you're on Instagram, you're about to go, but just stay right there. I'm gonna bring you guys right back. So ultimately, as Black people, I think that you kind of have to understand how this game is being played, where you have people that basically come in and say, I want to be one of those people when it's convenient for me. Like, so when it comes time to get any extra benefits, yeah, I'm a minority too. Yeah, I'm discriminated against too. Yeah, I want affirmative action too, right? So they want the benefits of being Black, but they don't actually want to be Black. So they're doing the kind of Kim Kardashian model of American politics, where it's like, the Kardashians, for example, they want to be Black, except for when it's time to really be Black, right? And that's cultural appropriation, where you got people that are like, I want to be Black, but I don't really want to be Black, right? So basically, when it comes to illegal immigrants and legal immigrants, for the most part, if you're trying to take advantage of the benefits created by Black people, why aren't you taking up the causes of Black people? Why aren't you out there in the front lines fighting for reparations? Why aren't you also crying when Black babies are being killed in the street by either cops or other Black people? Why aren't you the one fighting for employment opportunities and rights for Black people? Why aren't you fighting to close the wealth gap? Because they don't care. Now, should they even care? I don't know. I don't even know if it's their fault. It's just the way the system's kind of designed and rigged and set up, and that's kind of what it is. Take a second, please hit that share button, that like button, that subscribe button. Take 1 second to do that. Also, if you want to follow the podcast via text, where I'll text you when I go live, stuff like that, because as you can see, I go live at different times. I'm not going to text you in the middle of the night. Some of y'all got phones that make noises. I don't want to wake y'all up. But if you want to get text messages, you can text my name, Boyce. Text Boyce to 31996. Just text the word Boyce to 31996. And don't forget that tomorrow on the 1st, I'm going to do a seminar on how to think like a CEO, how to think like a boss once you quit your job, how to think like a business owner as opposed to an employee, getting out of the employee mindset and getting into the free Black man, free Black woman mindset. That requires an adjustment in terms of how you manage your time, how you protect your resources, how you make strategic moves, how you delegate, all these things, right? In fact, I had a conversation with Dr. Alicia, the queen in my house, and I was talking to her about, like the struggles of being a single mom, because before we got together, she was a single mom. She ain't gonna be single no more, so don't y'all even be looking over this way. But I told her, I said, I think we should run this house like a little bit like a corporation, not in a heartless way, but in a way where we can delegate and allocate things so that as a mom, you don't feel like you got to carry the whole world on your shoulders. I said, look, you're a scholar, you're brilliant, you're doing this amazing research. I don't think that should be interrupted because you feel like you always have to do all the dishes and clean the kitchen and do the laundry and take the kids to soccer practice and all this other stuff. Now I said, now look, to be honest with you, I'm an old school Southern Black man who does believe to some extent in certain gender roles, as long as they're allowed by the woman. I said, so I'm not really the guy that's going to be cleaning the kitchen either. I'm not the guy that's going to be washing a whole lot of dishes. I don't want to be sitting around doing laundry all day because I like doing what I do, stuff like this. I don't want to interrupt stuff like this so I can go do laundry. So what we did was we came together with a plan where she got some help. Where I said, look, but what I can do is I can go out here and hustle so we can get the resources to get some help around the house and run the house in a more efficient way so we can still be with the kids, still be good parents, but at the same time still not go crazy trying to do everything by ourselves. Because Black folks have a laborer mindset. We are very good laborers. So we will, if something needs to be done, we'll just do it. I had an assistant one time at her church. Every time something needed to be done, she always did it. She was always a volunteer, and it was stressing her out and driving her crazy because she was doing everything. And I think that comes from the plantation. Like, I really believe, like, we're just used to having the weight of the world on our shoulders. I also believe that it's connected to why Black women have so much depression, because I know Black women who are superheroes who literally are carrying the whole family on their back. I don't think it has to be that way. So I want to give you some alternatives in terms of how you might think about your life, and also how you might think about your economic quest, so you can learn to work efficiently as opposed to just working harder and working until you're dead. Okay. So if you're interested in checking it out, the URL, please type it in for me, somebody, if you want to. drboyceseminars.com. It's Dr. Boyce Seminars with an S.com. Okay. So it's going to happen November 1st, 8 p.m. That's when it's going down. It's going to be good. All right. So next, I got a couple more points I want to make on this immigration thing, and then I'm actually going to go to bed. I'm still on Chinese time from the jet lag. That's why I'm up so late, but I really I had to talk about this. So on page 103 in the book, Black Labor, White Wealth, Dr. Claude Anderson's book, he talks about burgeoning Hispanic-Black conflicts between Hispanics and Blacks. He says in the 1990 census data, so this is a long time ago when he wrote this book, 85% of those listed as Hispanic also classified themselves as Caucasians. From what I understand, this has not changed. Most people that come from Hispanic countries classify themselves as Caucasian. So do not believe for 1 second the nonsense that they feed you that says that they're brown people like you, that they're Black like you. No, if they're Hispanic, they can be white. They're just white people who speak Spanish. Right? Like the Root, for example, the Root is not run by other brown people or Black people. The Root.com is run by, white people who speak Spanish. So it's not a Black news organization. It's a organization run by white people who speak Spanish. Let's just be clear about that. And so many of these people that you are taught to believe that you're supposed to have these coalitions with, you're fed this at a lot of universities, and universities kind of have an agenda. Anytime you get to educate millions of kids, a political agenda is typically going to be instilled in the education. That's why I believe, as part of the Black core of 3, Black people, we must, within a generation, educate the majority of our children. At least half of all Black children in the next generation should be educated by Black people, so that we can inject our own agenda into the educational process. Let's just be clear. Everybody has an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. I have an agenda. My agenda is the Black agenda, period. Black people first, right? For white folks, their agenda is white people first. Asian people, their agenda is Asian people first. Jews have the agenda of Jewish people first. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with having an agenda. What is a problem is when you are a pawn in somebody else's agenda, because they've led you to believe that there is no agenda, right? That they're helping you when they're actually hurting you. So basically, going back to this, the idea that so many Hispanics list themselves as Caucasians says that from the jump, they don't want to identify with you. They don't want to be connected to Black people in the Black struggle. He also says Hispanics have enjoyed the benefits of having it both ways. First, they criticize white society for its disproportionate share of wealth and power. Then they classify themselves as Caucasian. So you say you criticize white people for having power, but then you say that you're white. These groups classify themselves as Caucasians for social purposes, then as minorities to qualify for governmental programs. So people that come to the country are taking your resources. Like in economics, we have an old saying that says there's no such thing as a free lunch. That means that if somebody gets something, somebody's got to pay for that. Ain't nothing free. And so let me grab this last point I want to make here. This is on page 105. He says the 1900 census data. This is over a century ago now. Now pay attention. This is real deep. This is an expose of how the influx, just the massive flood of immigration that they've allowed, especially illegal immigration, has killed the value of the Black vote, if there ever was any value. Pay attention. He says in 1900, there were 100,000 Hispanics in America, 100,000 Hispanics, and 9 million Blacks. In 1900, there were 100,000 Hispanics and 9 million Black people. That is what, 90 to 1. For every 90 Black people, there was 1 Hispanic person. Over the following 90 years, the birth rates of the two groups remained relatively equal. Yet the 1990 census showed an incredible increase in the Hispanic population that was growing at a rate that was 9 times faster than the Black population. And y'all know how it is now. Now, you're outnumbered. I mean, that's kind of done, So there's no catching up. There's no catching up. The Black vote has been watered down. It's as worthless as Venezuelan money or Zimbabwe money. And so we got to find a new strategy. We're going to have to operate more. We're going to take more cues from what the Jewish community does and the Asian community does than we can from the Hispanic community. I think that our numbers are just not strong enough for us to politically move the needle in America. I think that we have to have an economic plan that's going to elevate us. And I don't think this has to be for the whole community. This is family by family. What is your family's 50, 100-year economic plan? If your family has a strong economic plan, then your family will do well in America. Your family will do well. You might see Black folks falling and burning all around you, but your family can do well in America if you have a strong economic plan, particularly one that gets away from just chasing jobs and begging for jobs and moves toward creating pillars of wealth, which are in stocks and bonds, real estate, and entrepreneurship. If you become experts, if your children are experts in those 3 areas at an early age, then they're going to make their money in a different way, which will give them opportunities to make more money, which will also give them opportunities to build wealth. People who don't ever own anything pretty much never build any wealth. If you never buy a share of stock in your life, your odds of building wealth are extremely low, especially if you never buy a home. If you ever want to be a person who does not build wealth, who has a high likelihood of dying in debt, then here's 2 things you could do to ensure that you're probably going to die in debt and you're not going to ever have any wealth. 1, never buy a share of stock. Just every time I start talking about stocks or the stock market, just ignore me and go watch a Cardi B video or something like that. Just ignore me every time I talk about stock investing, and you won't, and there's a good chance you won't build any wealth. Number 2, never buy a home. Never go, to the Black real estate school where Andre Hatchett teaches. Never listen when people offer real estate seminars. Never take the time to learn anything about buying a home. Just pay rent to your landlord for the next 40 years so that he can buy several houses with the money you give him. He can become a millionaire off of that. And you will die in debt and you will never build any wealth. And your children will start off in a position that's worse than you, right? That's just, that's me in a sarcastic and annoying, probably a really annoying way, kind of telling you that that there's a side of the fence that the wealth builders live on. And I want you to really encourage your children to live on that side of the fence. Don't have them living on the side of the fence that many, many Black people choose because they don't know any better. Nobody's ever told them any better. I'm online all the time. But I, maybe I might hit 20, 30,000 people in a video, maybe sometimes 100, 200,000. But I've never hit 40 million Black people in a video because there's millions of Black people who would have no interest in hearing any of this. Right. And so for those people, unfortunately, I believe that some of them may find another solution that I don't know about. And if they do, I think that's great. If they overcome this white supremacy thing and they're doing well and they're happy and they're like, look, fuck you boys, we don't need you because we figured this out. We're doing good. We're happy. It's great to be Black in America. Then I'm really happy for them. But what I find is that most people who don't seek out the solutions are the people who where the problems seek them out. So you're not seeking out solutions, but you're going to be sought out by the problems, right? You're going to be sought out by the racism, sought out by the exclusion, sought out by the job discrimination, sought out by the microaggressions, sought out by all the struggles of the poverty, the wealth gap, sought out by student loan debt, sought out by all the things that keep Black people enslaved because there is a system of Black enslavement. There is a conveyor belt that they build for Black children, just like the school to prison pipeline. It's like you put the baby on the conveyor belt and it's like he's in school. It's like drops him in prison, right? Well, there's also like sort of a cradle to poverty, conveyor belt where you put your child on the conveyor belt and it's like poverty in adulthood, poverty in death, right? And not just poverty but debt. Like you literally die in the hole, right? And you die in the hole despite doing things that you think are going to play out well for you, right? You die in the hole despite the fact that you went to college. Right? You're like, wait a minute, I went to college. I'm better in myself. I'm better in my family. And nobody gave you the memo that college education is actually what's destroying people's wealth nowadays. Doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that for a lot of people, it's not working out. It's not a healthy investment. But if you're not able to get off of that conveyor belt and explore ideas or methods of thought that are outside of that mainstream interface, then you're going to kind of end up going down the same conveyor belt as probably 10 million other black people, right? So anyway, so this last point he makes is he says, basically that the continuous inflow of Hispanics into this country, and the fact that they all come in at a higher social order than black people is a big part of why black people are left behind. So what I would just say to you is, form your own opinion on immigration. Don't let me tell you what your opinion should be. I'm here to inform you, maybe guide and advise to some extent, but you have to make your own decision based on what you know. And what I'm here to just tell you is that they're lying to you. When they talk about fake news, there's fake news everywhere. Turn on Fox, it's fake news. Turn on NBC, fake news. CNN disappoints me because now they're turning into fake news. I'm watching, I'm reading some of these articles and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, journalists aren't supposed to talk like that. I trust some of the outlets, kind of like NBC, ABC, CBS. They seem to try to still, toe the middle of the road, which isn't popular now. But most of these outlets are nonsense. So if you're going to pick a line of thought that is built on bias, then at least pick a bias that benefits you, right? That's it. Pick a bias that's black, and then, that way you fortify yourself, fortify your community as the rest of the world loses its damn mind. So with this immigration caravan and just going full circle, I do believe that somebody's behind it. I don't think it's a coincidence. Is it George Soros? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if Soros knew it was going to happen. If the Democrats are behind it, then I believe Soros knew what was going on and Soros may have played a role. I think that they're trying to squash it so that it doesn't appear that he contrived this, right? But then again, the interesting thing is that it's just as likely that the Republicans are behind it, because I think the Republicans can benefit politically from this too. All I know is it's a damn shit show, and I think black folks don't have to be involved in none of this. I don't think black folks have to take a side in any of this. I think that black folks should say our side is the black side. We're down for our people. We're down for our, I'm down for my family, and that's it. So anyway, that's it. It was great to see you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me at this weird time. And if you're on YouTube, take 1 second, please hit that thumbs up button before you go. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Thank you, Dual Victory and Vicky Dillard, for hanging out and helping with the moderation. And I see a lot of other people in here that were helping out. So thank you, everybody. And Paul Charles and Jose and Jairo Acosta and let's see, everybody else who came through. Val V, I appreciate you guys very much. Good for Eyes and Mr. All About the Biz and Queen Kyra Clark. I see you in here all the time. I love you, sister. I'm gonna get out of here. Don't forget, tomorrow, 2 p.m., 11/1, Dr. Claude Anderson will be here. He's going to talk about this 14th Amendment stuff with Donald Trump. So 2 p.m., drboystv.com. Dr. Claude Anderson will be here 2 p.m. Eastern, 11/1. Also, 8 p.m., I'm going to do that lecture on how to think like a business owner, how to think like a CEO, as opposed to thinking like an employee, and how that's going to make a difference in the way you build your business and the way you build your future. So if you want to check out that seminar and be a part of it, go to drboyceseminars.com, drboyceseminars.com. It's going to be excellent. It's going to change your life. If it doesn't, just ask us and we'll give you your money back. That's how confident we are in this. Last but not least, we're trying to build media, intelligent black media all throughout the world. So we would love for you to become part of our tribe of intelligent black people. So we ask you to support the channel, some small amount, not more than it costs you to go to McDonald's. But in exchange, you get something that's very, very powerful, and we give you lots of free stuff. Like, so for every $10 you're donating to, or you're investing in the media platform, we'll probably give you $100 worth of free stuff. Literally, that's how great it is. So if you're interested in being part of the League of Intelligent Black People, please go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. So thank you guys for letting me go through the laundry list of things that help us pay to get this done, and just know that this money gets invested right back into the black community, and we want what's best for you. We want you to win, and we're not going to stop. So take care, everybody. I'll see you guys soon.